you know. But I do want to get so in the last couple of weeks with y'all shooting photography, what is your, I mean, y'all shooting grad pictures, if you still been doing that, how's your experience been, like, just in general?
Well, I'm back in Iowa, so I actually I lost out on it this
Mm,
year, so I'm out for the last week or so.
I've been here since spring break, and I have shot every day for the past 3 weeks. I have done almost 40 grad sessions this year.
man, you've been working. That's tough.
It's been nice. It's almost the only social interaction I get.
Mm,
It's definitely a weird ethical dilemma of like, should I be out here hanging out with people? And I can't help but I have to get within 6 feet of people to take their portrait.
mm-hmm.
So there's definitely been some moments where I'm like, I don't know if this is smart for me to be doing this, but I had to pay my rent. So
That's real. That's real.
To be honest, I really haven't been. I only did Ashley's grad pictures. That's my roommate and my line sister. So I mean, I was. It just kind of made sense for me to do it for her because she kind of decided she still wanted to do them last minute.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I haven't really been commissions or anything like that.
That's real. So what I wanted this to be is like, hopefully there will be a few more people like there, like in the last couple of weeks, there've been a lot of people who've kind of joined on the call. And so I saw this going one of two ways. The first way is like, we get a lot of people on the call and we kind of talk about the things we talked about. The second way is we don't get a lot of people on the call and we just have a venting session about like the woes of charging your friends and and just doing work for hire on campus and things like that, both of which would be very, I think, super cool to me, and I want to put out a just state a thank you for to Nani, Kayla, Harrison, and Conrad for just like joining on and like doing this with me, because like you didn't have to do it. But yeah, so I'm gonna wait to see if I'm gonna wait another 2 minutes to see if people get the link or hop on. But yeah, so in the meantime, how has y'all's COVID experience been? Just like the last couple of weeks, graduating, because all you are seniors, so like graduating in COVID, things like that. How's that been for y'all?
Weird. It's been a little weird, but I was still able to like see family and stuff on Sunday for like Mother's Day and graduation. So that was nice. Like, it'll all work out the way it's supposed to. I trust that.
yeah. Same. It's been really strange. I haven't left Duke, so to me, it hasn't really hit me that I've graduated yet or that anything's really different. It kind of just feels like a really long winter break where there's a lot of people here. My family doesn't live in the country, so I haven't been able to go home. But honestly, I feel like the Zoom calls have actually brought us really close together. We have like a scheduled family Zoom call twice a week now, which is more than we've ever talked before. So I'm really grateful for the good things that have come out of this.
Oh,
Yeah, it's definitely weird when like we graduated and you're like 22, but I'm currently in my parents' basement. But I've never also been like so relaxed, I guess. Like there's definitely like the nice times of just like being a child, even in some ways, even as we graduate. So yeah, good and the bad.
Yeah, I mean, I've also been at Duke, so it definitely doesn't feel real. I mean, there are moments where you realize what's happening and what's going on, and you might realize and glimpse the gravity of the situation, but I'm actually headed home on Friday. So I think like as I leave, it's gonna hit and be like, yo, this is over. Or, at least this chapter is gonna close for the foreseeable future, right? And so it's kind of wild just to be here, but also not really be here at the same time. So
that's real. And like that's been the same for me, like just kind of being around. So I'm still around campus as well, and just like being here and seeing like people come through, people come back, and just not being able to just I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just been weird. And graduating but not really graduating, and knowing that we're probably gonna have to come back and do it and things like that. It's just kind of all weird. But in the same time, like I feel like I felt all the feelings of graduation. My family did a Zoom call, and that was super dope and things like that. So, I mean, I feel like I got all the cool parts of it and then some. So yeah, if we do a graduation in September, would y'all come back for it?
Absolutely, without a doubt.
Bet.
Honestly, like I would love to. It just depends, And
Yeah.
there's so many factors. Like I want to say yes, but it's like, where do I live in September, and can I take time off of work to come fly all the way over here? So I would really, really love to, because exactly, we've all worked so hard for 4 years. It would be nice to have that kind of final moment where you get to really feel celebrated and special. But we'll see. I mean, I really hope they have another one though.
Yeah, totally with Kayla, where it's like, I mean, that's like a nice sentiment, and like in the perfect world that'll happen, but reality maybe won't be worth it. So
Conrad?
I'd come back. I don't know. I feel like it's just one way of closure, and I think I'm lucky to be in a position where I have a lot more flexibility when it comes to like my job, especially. And even if it's like all remote, if everything's remote, then it doesn't matter where I'm remote from. So in that regards, I'm also very lucky. So I would definitely come back, mostly for closure, but also, just for some of that experience that we were stripped away from. Yeah.
Oh, dope. So I do think there are going to be people joining the call as we move forward. But we'll start talking and we'll let them come in as they come in. So what I've done is I've made all of you, Nani, Kayla, Harrison, and Conrad, co-hosts to the meeting. So you guys should be able to share your screens. If you're not, let me know. I thought we should start by just kind of taking a look at our some of the photos that you've taken, some of your favorite ones, some of your favorite shots, just to get a feel for, how, like, I think we all put out really quality work, but I think like I can tell Kayla's photos when I look at hers. I can look at Conrad's and tell Conrad's when I look at his, and I can look at Harrison. I can look at Nani's photos, and I can tell that y'all took them. Like I know it's a Kayla original when I see it. So it's like I think that we should start by just kind of going through and comparing aesthetics and getting an idea for how we shoot and things like that. So if you guys are ready, feel free to share your screen with us and just kind of flick through some of your favorite pictures. So I'm gonna start with Nani. So yeah, because you're the first one on my screen. So yeah, I'm gonna start with you and see, if you have some of your favorite shots. If you want to share your screen and show them to us.
Yes, 1 minute.
No problem. And while we're waiting, for those of you for Kayla, oh, there we go. I thought it like I saw my screen go down, and so I thought like it closed out. I was like,
It always scares me. Like I hate sharing my screen. It terrifies me. So should I go ahead?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, awesome. So as I was saying earlier, the only grad pics I really took this season were my roommate and my line sister, Ashley Wilson. She's also like my best friend at Duke. So like she needed grad pics done and she kind of decided last minute. So I wasn't going to say no, right? So these are some of my favorites. Let me see. Oh, this isn't working the way I thought it would.
And is Ashley in a sorority or something?
I don't know. Like, you might get the sense that she is, but not sure. This is another one. So we did 3 different outfits. Ashley is very extra if you know her. And so she was adamant about getting 3 like distinct vibes and energies. And then it started raining. And so we kind of had to like rush home. But these are some of the ones that are my favorite. I think this is probably my all-time favorite of her because she just looks really beautiful. Yeah, and then we also did like videos, and so I'm working on putting together like a grad video for her because that's something that I wanted to do for like my own professional development is like try that out. So maybe I can offer that in the future, like down the line.
And so for y'all that don't know, Nani is also a dope videographer. Catcher, we collabed to do a wedding earlier this year, and that was just a super cool experience all the way through. So yeah, get her for all your photography and videography needs if you need. So yeah. So Kayla, you're the next one on my screen. If you have pictures you want to show, please share your screen with us. Let us know. Also, you're muted just for
My bad. First off, Nani, those are so beautiful. And I totally get that like special feeling of when you're taking your friend's photos. It feels so different than when you're taking a stranger's photos. Because obviously you're invested all the time. You want someone to like the photos. But when it's your friend, you have that special like, I want to really capture who they are and like what their energy is like right now. So I get that. And I feel like you really did a good job with that. Those were beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can bridge. There we go. All right. Make this full screen. All right. So I kind of picked some random ones throughout this year, and then a few random ones from a couple other years, and just for some random other shoots I did on campus this year. Yeah, this year's been really special. I feel like I kind of just mentioned it, but being able to almost know every single person that you're taking photos of is really just made it fun this year. Usually other years it's like a little more stressful. It's a little more like a job, whereas this year really felt like I got to just go outside and take pictures with my friends. So that was really special. So I'll just flick through them.
Kayla, are you flipping through them right now?
Can you not see?
No.
sorry about
I kind
that.
of figured that's what was happening.
Sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I have no idea how to work Zoom. Okay, let me try.
What we do see is we see the grid of your favorite pictures.
Grid?
Yes.
Okay. I have no idea how to work this. View maybe? Full screen preview? Can you see it now?
No, we see just the grid. What software are you in?
I'm on Bridge.
Oh, I don't use Bridge. Have you I would say try double clicking, but like I don't use Bridge.
Here, let me try to get out of it. Okay. So you can see this screen.
Right.
I'm on right now.
We can yep,
Okay.
the one with the grid.
Can I go like this?
There we go.
Let's just do this. That's fine. This will do. I'll just try to make it as big as I can. Yeah, we'll go like that. That works. Okay.
These are tight.
All right. That is my little flicker. Sorry for all my different.
Oh, no, you're fine. But they're great pictures. Like I really enjoyed looking at them. So is it what are some of the actually I'll ask that question after. Harrison, when you're ready, share your screen and show us what some of your favorites are.
All right, let's see if I can do this. Preview. All right, we good? See it?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, these are all mainly from last year. as I have not been on campus. Sorry, repeat. This is literally one of my, I think this is the favorite grad photo I've ever taken.
Mm.
Love the classic champagne pop.
Love a good champagne pop.
Love it. I mean, they're messy and annoying, but honestly, like they're also super fun to do. So yeah, there's a few selections. This is kind of what I had on my phone for like advertising purposes. Because I left my external hard drive at Duke and haven't gotten it back yet. So this is just what I got.
And then Conrad, if you could share your screen with us and show us some of your favorites, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, let me get situated. Word, let me try again. Yeah, so I have been moving all day, and so I got the text. It was like, pick some of your faves. I was like, well, I haven't had a chance to be on my computer all day, but luckily I've done a couple that I like used for advertisement as well. So all of these are from last year. Yeah, I guess it also just kind of like rolls through on its own, so no worries. I actually don't know when it ends. I forget, but yeah, it kind of like flicks through. Yeah, they're all fun. I mean, like, I think it's really fun to get people from all parts of campus and get their families involved as well. I think that like is definitely something that's really entertaining. Oh, there are some from this year.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I think it's always fun to just like really get to connect. And like Kayla said, like this past year, it didn't even feel like I was working because I knew everyone. And so it's just like, yeah, of course, like this is just so much more fun. It's like we don't have to break the ice. And yeah, I think this is the last photo. Yeah, probably. Oh, I forget when the slide should end, but that's me. That's on me. So I'll just end with that peace side.
Definitely. So I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna show you some of my favorites as well. So here we go. Can you guys see what I'm seeing?
Dark right now.
It's dark right now?
Yeah.
All right. I could have swore him.
There it is. Oh, we just saw it.
You did see it? Okay, well, let me,
Flashed
dang, okay. So here, let me see. I'm gonna pull it up again. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. You know, I'm still learning the ins and outs of Zoom as well. But here, let me see if I can. Dang. All right. Dang. See, you would think I knew how to do this because I've done it a few times, but even I. Here, let me see. Okay. Can you see what I'm looking at now?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So I'm just moving through some of my favorite as well. Two of the points that both of y'all made, like it didn't feel like I was working a lot in the last couple of years with these because a lot of these were just friends. And so what you're looking at are pictures from like these are pictures from sophomore year, junior year, senior year. And so I hope that in these pictures there is a progression of skill and quality. I hope that you can see a difference over the years. And if I ask you which ones were more recent, you might be able to tell me, but I'm not going to do that just to kind of save my ego. But yeah, so these are definitely some of my favorite from the last few years, and just like most of these just didn't feel like work. If y'all were interested in my prices. So kind of to get started, one of the first questions I had for y'all was just like, what are some of the considerations that you guys are making when going into like a grad shoot. So like I know that Harrison was like champagne is great. Like what are y'all thinking about? Some of the aesthetics and things like that. Just when you're going into a grad shoot. And feel free to jump in whenever. This is a free flow conversation.
I think for me, the biggest thing is I'm a big natural lighting person. I don't love using artificial lighting for portraiture. So, especially outside, that's just like a aesthetic thing. I don't love it for me. So my huge thing is lighting and time of day. I've been out there now this year. Like I said, I see Conrad out there almost every day too. And I've been out there every single day. I canceled my ones for today for this, but
Thank you.
between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. I'm outside taking photos, and the sun is just like rapid moving. So I have like going into it, I have like a routine of where I need to go when for the best lighting at each spot. And then, afterwards, I think is just as important as going into it. Then like my editing style changes so much depending on what time slot I gave someone to take their photos. So I think that for me is the biggest thing I consider is definitely lighting. And then of course, yeah, I always send the message, like if you want champagne, I recommend bringing 2 bottles. And if I know they're doing it, I put my filter on my lens because I know I'll get drenched.
Nani,
Yeah.
Harrison, Conrad,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say, obviously, Kayla hit like the timing. I was always like 9 a.m. or 5 p.m. Like those are your 2 options when someone like threw a day at me to get that natural lighting. And also for me, it was like a huge like worst case scenario, I guess, like knowing like, especially in the past when I've done it like strangers, is knowing what my like safe spots are, like what my safe background is, what poses I know work. Like worst comes to worst, me and this person are like not vibing, like I'm not really good at posing them because everyone's different. If lighting's off, or if I'm having any technical difficulties, like what are like the 3 to 5 spots and looks that I know I can pull off every single time to make sure like the client's happy.
Yeah, so I echo all of that. I definitely want to echo what Kayla said about telling people to bring multiple of whatever prop they want to use. I am notoriously bad at capturing motion. Like Ashley's champagne pictures did not work. Like we went through 2 bottles, and at the end we were like, let's just drink it because it's like like it doesn't matter. It's just not gonna work because I just could not capture it well. I also had her like blow confetti. Yeah, that didn't go great. We got one of those things and we thought it was, so she ordered it and she thought it was like the smoke that people have been using, like the colored smoke, and it was actually confetti. So when it popped, we were very confused and like didn't expect that at all. So all of this to say, like I think it's very important that one, like the person you're shooting is prepared, with these extras, and then 2, like just be honest with them about your like skill set and capability, because I know for me, I'm much better at video than I am at still photography, and so I was like, these might not work, but we're gonna try
And
it.
I hate going last, or I mean second to last, but pretty much everything that has been said, I echo entirely. Everyone has their specialties. I mean, like you said, you can tell when Kayla takes a photo or Harrison takes a photo or when I take a photo or just like when anyone else takes a photo, there's a very distinct look to it. There's also a very distinct way that we each probably interact with who we're working with. And I've seen that like this entire like past month whenever I bump into Kayla, it's like always so fun, but we're always interacting with whoever we're with in a very different manner. But like, that's not to say that, one way is right or the other. But I think that, yeah, I don't think I added any value with that statement just now, because I think that everything I was going to say, or I don't think I added any new points, because everything I was going to say was pretty much already mentioned. Timing is incredibly important. I'm also very much like a natural light type of photographer when it comes to portraiture, and especially when it comes to this. And so I wholeheartedly believe that, yeah, like Harrison said, you get 9 a.m. I'm generous. I give them 10 a.m. because I know that they won't show up at 9. 10 a.m. and 5 to 8 p.m. are the golden like times, so to speak, when you're working with this. So yeah, it's very much about timing and editing. And my big thing with editing is my editing changes based on my mood too. So
True.
yeah, it's pretty weird. I would say some people are like, how come mine doesn't look exactly like hers? And like, well, I was really sad that day, so it looks a little different. Like it's not noticeable, like incredibly noticeable, but you can kind of tell. That's my thing.
No, definitely. And to echo all of the things you said, timing is key. I don't even do shoots before about 3 o'clock. Like if you want to shoot before 3 o'clock, you're gonna have to get me on another day or get another photographer. It's not gonna happen. But I do like to introduce light into my shoots. So like I'll bring if anybody who's seen me do a grad shoot, you'll see me carrying this big light on my back because I think there's just so much you can do when you're introducing light. And yeah, so another consideration I'm always making is just like clothing and how, so I shoot a lot of Black people. So like I'm thinking about how the clothing will clash. And so when people are asking for colors and things like that, one of the things is always like if somebody has kind of yellow skin and they pull up with a yellow dress, I'm like, oh, like, but like I'm really thinking about colors and clothing and things like that. And to Harrison's point, there are some shots that I know I can get. Like I know I can get the shot in front of the chapel. I know I can get a shot in the arches. I know I can get the leaning shot, people looking up and things like that. But depending on who I'm shooting and where I'm shooting and my mood, I might get, I might do a lot of experimenting and things like that. So I guess my next question to the photographers, and we'll go backwards this time. We'll start with Conrad. Is when you're shooting. So you talked to me. You said a while ago that it doesn't feel like work when you're shooting your friends. So when does it feel like work? Like when you're shooting a grad shoot, when does it feel like a job for you? When do you feel like you're doing something for a client, but you're not really doing something for a friend? And how can you draw that distinction? And where did that distinction come in? So we'll start with Conrad on this.
Yeah, so I will say that honestly, for grad shoots, it has never really felt like I've been doing client work because I guess like part of my personality is just trying to get to know the person or the group of people that I'm working with as we're going through the shoot, simply because, if you're more comfortable with the person who's behind the camera, then the person behind the camera will get better photos of you. And so, for the most part, it's never been like, I think in the moment, I've never had an issue where it's like, oh, this is just a client that I'm working with. Or it's like, I have you for another 45 minutes. Let's just power through this. It's always been like, oh, this is fun. Let's keep going. Let's kind of work through it. There are moments when there are instances though, like I think like outside and like with regular event photography where people have definitely felt more like clients where it's like, I'm just shooting this event. I need to make sure I get like these 5 key things that I have asked you beforehand, like which 5 shots do you definitely want me to include, or like these certain shots to include. And I'm literally just looking for those shots. And then everything else that I find in between is like icing on the cake, where it's like, you never know what I'm going to bring you afterwards, but it's always going to be something like pleasant, or I imagine is pleasant. But yeah, I would say that for the most part, I think because we're in a university setting and we're in this very, very niche setting of people that we know to some degree, because otherwise they may or may not have reached out to you in the first place, then like it never really feels like working with clients. I think the only instances in editing, in the process, in post-production, when people say like, hey, when can I get those photos? And you just have to be honest and say like, hey, I promise like 1 to 2 weeks is like a good runtime. I'm usually a lot more generous on that. And sometimes I can get into same day if I'm really feeling it, or if I'm really procrastinating on everything else that I have going on in my life. But other than that, like when you're out there shooting with people, it never really feels like I'm working with like client A. It really feels like I'm working with like Ashley or just like, just like Mitch or whoever, right? I really feel like I'm just working with them and we're just having a good time. So I will say that it really doesn't, at least like in the actual moment, feel like we are ever like just purely doing work.
Harrison?
Uh, I'll say like Conrad and I are like friends outside of photography, so like I know we have different personalities, and I think mine lends itself to viewing it as work a little more often. And for me, a lot of it is like the mood. And also I won't lie, like what else I have going on. If it's just like shit, this is all I got today. I woke up, I'm doing the shoot. I'll probably edit it same day because like I'm very relaxed. Then it kind of feels like more fun. But if it's like this is my third back to back to back shoot, I'm behind on editing and I'm gonna have to like immediately go into my central campus apartment and just like bang out the 2 shoots I did last week. That's when it starts to feel a little bit more like work. So for me, it's like when the student life and the photographer life kind of both are feeling really heavy and it starts to feel like a lot. That's when I'm like, okay, this is work. Like it's work I like, but it's work.
Definitely. Then Nani, I know, and then I know that photos, you don't do a lot of photos as much, but tell me when it feels like work when you're doing videos and things like that as well.
I think how familiar I am with the person definitely plays a role, as everyone has said. It also depends if we're inside or outside. That wedding we shot was the worst thing I've ever done. It was so hot and the lighting was terrible and it was just really, really rough. But it was also a wedding, so it was like celebratory, and everyone was generally, besides being like sweltering, everyone was pretty happy and just like joyful. So like the energy of that was cool. I think for a lot of it for me, like I said, I know my strengths and weaknesses. And so if I know that the client is asking me for something that I'm not the best at, or something that can often go wrong, like if I'm doing video and I have to hook up like my personal lavalier system and they're also using a microphone or something like that, like that's going to make me nervous and I'm just going to be generally anxious throughout the shoot. So it really depends on like the specifics of the shoot, like what the client is requiring, what the energy is like, the weather, all of that.
And Kayla.
Yeah, Conrad, I feel you. I feel like everyone's hit everything. Definitely. Also, I think I've grown so much as a photographer and also as just a person capable of having social interactions with people I don't know. I started doing senior grad photos my freshman year of college, and every time I did it felt like work because I had very little skills in, I guess, just carrying out meaningful conversations with people I didn't know. I wasn't very good at it. And so being out there for 3 hours a day, every day, doing it with people was definitely scary. So it felt way more like work. I think the past 2 years have been more fun, I guess, in a way, just because I feel completely comfortable now with it. If it's someone I've never spoken to, I feel comfortable that I can carry out a conversation with them and give them photos that they're going to like. So I think that has made it overall a more meaningful experience for me as well. Similarly to you, I feel like Corey and Nani, I also do a lot of event photography, and I've done weddings and engagement shots, and those, I'm not sure if it's because I'm usually working with people who are older than me, or because, this is a wedding, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Those are just, it feels like higher stakes. So those definitely are a bit more stressful to me. Overall, I think Harrison really, talked about this a lot. Post-production gets very overwhelming. I'm like a moments person, so like I'll set you up in a photo and I'll take your picture, but then I kind of like to wait until you think I'm done taking photos. And it's like those moments that usually are my favorite photos. Like when friends start giggling and laughing and things like those are the photos I love. So I end up taking, usually for, depending on how many people, I always end up taking over 1,000 photos. So then going in post-production and going through all of those is a bit of a nightmare. And I've gotten through my like Lightroom flow now. It takes me way less time than it used to, but it still is a daunting task every single time. And same thing, Conrad, I always try to say, I'll get them to you within a week. But this year especially, that's just not been that's just not the reality, and it stresses me out. It definitely stresses me out when also it's your friends texting you like, hey, I want my photos, and I'm like, hey, I don't have them.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think it's definitely before I'm a little stressed, a little anxious. During I have so much fun, and then afterwards, not fun.
Yeah, and that's super real. For me, there are two things that make photography feel like work to me. One, when the sun is high up in the air, like I gotta clock. I'm clocking in because it's just like this. We got a job ahead of us because it's like I'm figuring out ways to block the sun and then light people in a way. Like I'm adding light and blocking the sun, and it's just like finding shadow. It's a whole job, and I love it, but it's a job. And then kind of to all you all's points, when it feels like work, when they want them tomorrow. I've taken the photos, I gave you the link today, or I've taken the photos and then I sit home and I sit and I get home and I get a text like, so no rush, but I'd love to have the photos whenever you're ready. And those are my favorite kinds of texts because they're always like, no rush, but I'm texting you right now. No rush, but I'm texting you 2 hours after you took the photo. So those are always my favorite kinds of texts. And that's like, if you want to make me feel like I'm clocking in, text me right after I take your photos. But yeah, so I mean, kind of going off some of the things that you all said, one of the questions that I had is like, there comes times in any photo shoot, and maybe not in anyone, but in any photographer's life, where you get into a shoot and you realize, dang, I can't do something, or dang, like this is not right, dang, I forgot my batteries, dang, or something goes wrong. And you, as the photographer, videographer, or the person making the art, can't let the client know that something has gone wrong. And so I guess my question is, how do you all navigate like when things go badly in your shoots? And so yeah. And like now, like we're not doing it any order, just kind of jump in whenever you feel like it.
I go with the honesty approach, not to the point where I'll admit like, shit, you want something that I straight up can't do, but I'll be like, okay, honestly, like that's a little hard, or that like doesn't work, or it looks different in person than it does in camera. I'll frame it in a way that doesn't completely throw myself under the bus, but I'll be honest if like something's past me. And then I'll kind of propose like the next best alternative. Like, oh, you wanted that champagne popping photo and it just didn't happen, and now we're out of champagne. Time for a champagne drinking photo. The bottle's empty. So yeah, that's kind of my thing, is like, be honest, but also like move it forward and keep on going, and still like the client's gonna be happy if you try and put a good effort. I find most people like are reasonable-ish. So
I agree with that. I'm a very honest person in general, I like to think, and especially if it's like my personal mistake, I'm gonna be real with you. Like, I didn't dump my SD card before you came here, and so I can only take 2 more pictures. Like, I'm going to be very honest. But then also like knowing that I think you need to make the reasonable like concessions. Like, hey, I'm gonna give you like a slight discount, or like, like Harrison said, suggest something else that will be the next best thing. But I believe very strongly in just being honest with the client, and also remembering like they asked you to take the picture, like they know you're better at this than they are, so they need you too. So it's fine. Just be real.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this happened to me 2 weeks ago. I showed up, I turned my camera on, and there was no SD card in the camera, and I was like, this isn't a situation where I can be dishonest.
Right.
I can't take a photo. So yeah, no, same thing. Definitely making concessions, like you said. And in that moment where I was like, oh my God, this is definitely, I have to go all the way home and come back. That's gonna be 20 minutes. Like, I'm not gonna charge you obviously what I would normally charge. I think also grad photos have been such a learning experience. I really do feel as though I've like not mastered, but I do feel like I now know all the mistakes I have made, and I know how to present them, like bringing 2 bottles of champagne and like I give a little, Conrad, I've heard you do the same thing. I give the tutorial before we pop the champagne.
Right.
Like, this is exactly how you do it for a successful champagne
Hat
shot.
throwing tutorial so it doesn't look dumb.
I wear hats to show people how to throw the hat. Like I bring a cap, a baseball cap, and I wear it. So I'm like, when you throw the hat, you're gonna look and yep,
You're gonna hold it like this and you'll look at this angle.
yep.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I really agree with Nani. I just like to be upfront. If they ask for something that I know will not look good, or that I'm just like, I don't know how to take that shot the way exactly you want it. I don't have the lens for that. Or yeah, like Court said, it's broad daylight. It's not going to be golden hour. That's just not what your photos are going to look like. I just like to be upfront about it, just because also we're all students. And so I think it's unreasonable for you to expect me to be an expert photographer. I don't charge people like an expert photographer, and I don't take any claim to be. So with that comes, I think, a little bit of responsibility on students whose photos I'm taking to accept, like, you've chosen to have a student come take your photos. So like, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be a crazy and amazing professional. I'm going to be a student photographer. And so we're all learning.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think anyone stands to benefit from a dishonest photographer who might like take a photo that a client has suggested, knowing either that they're not technically adept at it or that it's going to look really bad. I know if you've ever worked with me, it's really funny if you suggest something and I know it's going to be bad because I like immediately sigh. I'm like, and then I go like, we can try that. I will let you try it because I learned from my mistakes, and so will you as the person in front of the camera. Not like it's never extreme, right? It's like never to the point where it's like I'm gonna jump off this like fifth step and land on the chapel wearing my like heels. It's like absolutely not. Don't do that. Like I can tell you immediately that will not work, and I do not want to have to drive you to urgent care right now.
It's always the jumping photos.
Yeah, that's the one, right? And it's always like, like I know how to do it. Like you said, it's all about learning from your mistakes, about doing it again. And, for me, I've been very fortunate to have some people who like will just jump 7 or 8 times for me. And I'm like, oh, I got it. Like, it's really exciting because like you also get equally excited when you're working in the moment, when you can tell that the shot has worked. It's like, for me, it's really funny because like I will be, Kayla, you've probably seen, I'm always like squatting 9 times out of 10, getting like this very like unique like vantage point. And then as soon as I get the shot, I get up immediately and like walk 3 or 4 steps away because I know I got the shot. And I know that they're going to love the shot regardless. But yeah, it never benefits anyone to just be dishonest. So yeah, be upfront. It's like,
No. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing else I can say to that like no one else, that anyone else has not already said. So yeah.
And I mean, on that, like with the dishonesty, one thing is Duke's not that big of a school. So like from a social standpoint, I don't want to be known as like the guy who rips people off.
Right.
Claims to do stuff, and then like 2 weeks later you get the photos and it's not at all what I said it'd be. And secondly, from like a business standpoint, I think, I know everyone on this panel except Nani. I don't think we've met before, but like everyone's reputation preceded them before I even like actually met them as a photographer. So both from like the social and your personal life and from a business standpoint, it doesn't help to be dishonest.
Yeah. And Corey, this is something you've talked about, but like I think all 5 of us have very distinct styles. And so also it's a hard thing sometimes trying to reconcile what a client wants if it doesn't match your style. They want a photo where you're like, that's not gonna look the way a photo I normally take looks like, but like being willing to compromise. But that's definitely to that point of like, I have a style that I like. And so it's hard sometimes when the client wants something to look different. I've had people literally message me on Facebook. I remember my sophomore year, I got a message on Facebook asking if I would send them the raw files so they could edit them themselves. And I was like, no, just no.
That's real. Yeah. And for me, I mean, like before I even get started, I am not an advocate for you lying in your photography. Like I don't want any photographers, or like there are a lot of younger photographers on this call. Please do not lie to your clients. Don't do that. But like there have been times in the last couple of weeks where like I'll get there and I'll realize the lens that I normally use is in my room, or that the battery pack to my light is completely not charged. And so it's like in that moment, what I do, like I'm freaking out in my head, but then I say, let's take a lap. Like, let's go to the next spot and we'll shoot a few, like we'll go shoot the pictures I know I can get regardless of the situation. And then in those times, I kind of use that time to kind of regroup and reset mentally to kind of come back and get the pictures that might take a little bit more challenge. So yeah, we're about to move on to a kind of another aspect of like another chapter in this talk. So like, does anybody have anything else on the topics we just said, or have any final words on those things? All right, cool. So so the next part of this talk is going to be more about like payment and money, like, and things like that. It's going to be like I think the harder hitting part of this chat, I guess. And so my first question with that is like, when did y'all realize y'all were good enough to charge people? Yeah, so yeah.
I started out in event photography, and it was when, and I mean, I feel like my thing on campus was like very organic, where it was like a close friend sorority, like the closest sorority I am to needed someone for event photography. And I was like, give me $40. And I mean, I think I could do that. So it was just kind of like that beginning. Then it's like, oh, they're happy. And I made $40. Okay, I can charge people and make them happy.
I started doing photography in high school. So for me, it was, I did a few weddings and engagements in high school, and I did grad photos for that in high school. And I was charging then. So for me, and in college, I didn't actually want to do graduation photos or professional photography at all. I just wanted to take photos that I wanted to take. So I wasn't expecting to do it, but same thing, Harrison. I was doing photography for a publication on campus, and some girls approached me to do their grad photos. And so I did what I charged what I normally did in high school, and it kind of took off from there. And so there's definitely been like different points where I've had to reevaluate what I charge. But at least in college, just because of the experience in high school, I always felt comfortable charging people for those, for graduation photos. It does depend also though on the situation. I've had groups, like on school groups, have me take photos that aren't for graduation per se. Like I've had dance groups ask me to take photos for them in the gardens. The Alphas had me take photos for them for Founders Day. And so like I didn't feel comfortable charging in those situations because it was a Duke sponsored group. And I obviously wasn't out there for hours like I am with grad photos. And I got a lot of publicity from it. So in those situations, I didn't charge. But for grad photos, I've always felt comfortable charging, except for my best friends. Then I'm usually like, take me to dinner.
Since like first semester freshman year, I worked for the Franklin Humanities Institute as a videographer and editor. And so I was getting paid there to do videos. And so once I kind of got comfortable there, I was absolutely fine charging for videos, but I would never charge anyone for photography until first semester of this past academic year. I took Intro to Digital Photography. I'm blanking on the professor's name, but I really like him. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I took that class, and then I was like, okay, I can probably charge now, because I just like, I'm very honest with myself about my skills, and I'm like, there are a few things I need to learn before I'm charging people to take their pictures. So I only started charging for photography recently, and even still, I'm like, it's not, pay me for a video. I'd rather do that.
Yeah, I think if you look at my schedule, it seems like I almost like came out like just charging immediately. So I didn't pick up a camera like seriously until junior spring. Like the very beginning. The junior spring was the first year, the semester that I started charging people. So like it seems like it's like, oh yo, did you think you were already good enough as soon as you picked up a camera? The answer is like definitely not. But I think that like once you get that first paid gig, no matter where it is, no matter what it is, you know, it's like my work is valued at a certain rate or is valuable enough that people would pay to have me there rather than have their like friend with their iPhone or Galaxy S10. I don't know which model we're on now, but to have someone else just like take these photos because you have acquired like this eye, you have acquired a certain style, you also have the experience behind it to really get behind and work. And like I've worked with photography before. Like I started with a like digital documentary photo class in like my sophomore fall, and then I took MJ's black and white class. So I've had some camera experience, but really like nothing before sophomore year. But it's like that first paid gig. I think I wrote about it too. It's like once you get that first paid gig, that's when you realize, hey, this is worth something. And if people want to like intentionally reach out to me, sometimes like you're asking for my time, like I'm definitely going to ask for something back in return, right? Like it's only fair. Like if you were to approach any other photographer that you had no idea or had no standing relation with prior to, you're going to definitely like want to come to the table with something. And so, yeah, for friends, I will say, I know we're probably going to get into this at some point. For friends, it's a little harder because it's like, we've seen you progress through this journey. We've seen like you succeed. We've seen you fail. But at the same time, like we still want you. And it's like, well, at that point, what do I charge them? But I will say that like, yeah, I totally forgot what the question was, but I know we're talking about charging and pricing and stuff. But yeah, once you get that first gig, that's the end of the story. Like you're worth something, right? It's like that first big breakthrough, and then you should feel comfortable charging. Although what you charge and how you charge should definitely depend on the event, and it should not just be like flat. I'll put that out there.
Absolutely. I think for me, it was context. I got my camera on Christmas in my sophomore year. So like I got the camera that I shoot most of this, and from then on, I would just offer my services like as far as like event stuff. If I knew people that had events that they needed to shoot, I would offer them for free. And it wasn't until people came to me saying, "Hey, I saw that you shot so and so's event. Can you shoot my event as well?" Those were really nice. When people started asking for my time was when I started charging. Because it's like now it's like, okay, you're asking me for a job, a product in mind, let me start charging. And then there were a couple of experiences that let me know that I could bump up my price. But it was once people started seeking after me that I started to charge. But the next question I had was kind of to Conrad's point, was there's a challenge associated with charging your friends specifically. And like the people that you're close to and the people that you're around, like what are some of the hardest parts in y'all's eyes about like charging the people that you're closest to, or charging people that you know or that know you? Yeah, and then whenever you're ready, kind of just hop in.
I think something for me is a lot of my close friends, we're all very familiar with each other's financial situations. So and that goes both ways. Of like I pay for my rent, I pay for all my things. And so I really do need this. I've like these past 4 years, grad photos, the money I make from this genuinely lasts me for months afterwards, and I need that. Same thing with event photography, like that money really does pay my bills. So I need it, but at the same time, it's especially hard when I know my friends' financial situations and I know they're going through a tough time. And so I definitely feel that, and like people are moving. Coronavirus has really affected people and their jobs, and people have lost jobs, people lost internships. So I've definitely, especially this year, been a lot more lenient. I planned to charge a lot more than I did this year, but just because of the situation, I didn't bump my price this year, just because I felt like this wasn't the year for me to do that. But yeah, no, with best friends, it's usually for me, it's buy me dinner. I just genuinely feel uncomfortable having my best friends Venmo me for photos, especially because this is something I've kind of talked about a lot. I do a lot of personal photography, and so I'm taking pictures of my friends almost all the time. So there's a weird line of like, when do I then start charging you for it? But yeah, I think for me this year has just been hard because financial situations have been really, really tough for people. So I've been a lot more lenient this year than other years. But it's the same for me though, because this does pay my bills.
Right.
And on that note, I actually just got back from doing my best friend from like high school's grad photos, and he like offered to pay me, and I was like, no, no, you I forced you to go out and let me take pictures of you back in high school, like when I was first starting, and literally was like shooting on auto and didn't know um anything about photography. So like I forced you to model for me when like the pictures really didn't turn out that well. You can get some for free now that I kind of know what I'm doing. But what Kayla mentioned about like it's like best friends versus acquaintances, it's a sliding scale, and that's like what was really going to be hard for me. Obviously it sucks I wasn't able to do them this year with the COVID situation, but with grad photos, I was nervous about like, is this person who I consider one of my best friends at Duke, is another person who I'm not as close with going to kind of like be jealous or take it the wrong way that I kind of gave them a discount because of our personal relationship? And it gets really messy. So for me, I tried to kind of like cut it off. I think like respect like what I'm worth, but also be understanding it's students paying me a lot of times, whether it's coming out of their pocket or someone else's pocket. Like it is a student coming to me, but still like acknowledging what I'm worth. And you know, if you weren't willing to pay that, then I just wasn't the photographer for you. Just to avoid all that messiness, because it really could get extremely messy.
That's real.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment a lot, especially when you talk about like the difference between best friends, friends, and acquaintances. You know, your reputation, is like precedes you, right? Like, so you'll like some people will know you as a photographer before you even like met them before. And so I know I've talked with Corey about this, but I've gotten requests from people and they're just like, yo, will you be able to do this? And I vaguely know them, or like we're like on speaking terms at the very least, and I'll say, yeah, for sure. Like, will you pay me? And they're like, nah, but you can use this for your portfolio. I think the funniest thing for me was like they told me this semester. I'm like, you've seen my work. I don't need you for my portfolio. Like that's the last thing I would want right now. Like I'm not reaching out to you, you're reaching out to me. And instead, it's like the Instagram influencers thing where they say like, oh, we'll like tag you and that'll be okay, right? Like you should give me free food because of that, or you should give me your product for free because of that. And it's like, well, um, like if I'm not reaching out to you, or if there's like no particular tie that I have with you, I'm gonna charge you what I think is fair, and that will reflect like the amount of work that going to be putting into this. And so like, yeah, like for my best friend who I also dragged out and like made him take a bunch of photos at a graffiti park. Like he wants me to do his grad photos, and he's like, yeah, I know you're like super expensive. I can like pay for your like I can pay for whatever. And I'm like, absolutely not. I would I would do this for you any day, anytime, right? Like because we've developed this relationship, and so for like a lot of people that are close, like you said, like you have to also really consider the financial situation. And so like I know I posted like flat rate pricing on my forums like way back when, but I know that 95% of my friends or people who know me will never actually access that site and will always reach out to me. So my pricing is always very, very flexible and variable depending on that. And especially with everything going on right now, right? Like you have to be really considerate, but at the same time, you also have to like hold firm and just be like, yeah, at the same time, like you can't disrespect me in the sense that it's like, if you're offering me $15 for 3 hours of on-site work, on location work, and then all the post production, like you wouldn't even pay your barber that. Like that's much less than minimum wage, right? Like we won't even get into that conversation. And it's just like, thanks for offering, but I am not the photographer that you're currently looking for with the conditions that you have. So yeah, like when it comes to friends, it's like, it's always so finicky because like Kayla, I have also used my friends in other personal photography projects. And it's always like, how come how come this is like free when I like model for you or work with you in this manner, but like when I come to you with this request, you're gonna start charging me, right? And it's just like, you like really don't know what to do, right? It's like we're all students, so we have to make it work somehow. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I have to hop in here, you all, because this is MJ. It's such a privilege to be a fly on the wall and like hear about your lives as, you know, young photographers. And I'm here to tell you there is nothing new under the sun. Like decades ago, everyone was dealing with people saying it'll be great exposure. Like that thing's been around for decades, you know, and the whole thing about like, you know, like, I mean, with you all, I understand like your friends, you know, who are students and you know their financial situations. But I will say the other thing is a lot of, you know, nonprofits with more money than God who are like, well, you know, we're a nonprofit and, you know, can't you, you know, we don't have a budget for that. And, you know, this and that. I don't know if you all have run into anything like that. But, you know, there's just sort of, these things just really don't go away. They're like with us forever, I guess, you know, the whole, that anyway, for whatever comfort that might bring you all, it's like the, you know, that's sort of been around forever. I mean, and as has the, you know, the whole thing that I am, you know, you're completely reminding me of the, you know, like your close friends that are also, you know, that are like family and you couldn't take a dime from them if your life depended on it and you let them buy you dinner, like Kayla was saying. But then it's kind of also like Harrison is saying too, you know, it's like a fishbowl and how do you, you know, how do you make those steps different, you know, and I just feel your pain on that is all I can say, because it is really tricky. I mean, it's a tricky business. I know that there was a really famous photographer and he used to this is not exactly your old situation, but he used to have things that he would donate to good causes, you know, like prints, fine art prints. Any print that he had donated was like a certain size. I think it was like a 10 by 10 inch print or something. And that's the only time that he ever printed that size. And so it sort of didn't impact like his collector market, and it didn't impact, you know, it was just this really straightforward rule kind of. And it kind of it sort of put to the side the whole like, should I donate? Should I not? They want this, but you know, that's too valuable for me to be able to donate it. And like all that went away when he kind of made this little rule. And I was just thinking about the people that approach you all sometimes like groups, you know, that are like, oh, we don't have any money, or like, I don't know if there's a way that could be helpful for like, you know, I mean, other photographers have dealt with it by saying, I volunteer for X organization, and that's the volunteer work I do as a photographer. Like I have things I care about, issues I care about, and I already donate to them. So, you know, and sort of a way to think about it is, you know, is you donate your time when you think of it. Like when you decide I want to donate my time to this cause or situation versus, and then when you get peppered with people saying, oh, you know, it's because everyone sees you as an inexhaustible resource, you know, and they don't see you all as at your computer for hours after a shoot and slogging around in Lightroom and Bridge. Like they don't see any of that, right? So they just think you come and do a little snapping. Like that's what they see. So that's also kind of a way to kind of make like internal rules for yourself. And just essentially when someone says, oh, you know, we're a do-goody organization, can you do it for free? You know, and you say, well, I actually already have I already have groups that I work with on that basis, and I can't do that with more than I already do. You know, so it's sort of essentially get like behind the wheel of that sort of do-goodiness and have you generate it versus being sort of kind of at the mercy of everyone that comes up to you and says they don't have a budget, because nobody has a budget. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I mean, it's like something Kayla mentioned, all of this for grad photos has been like one big learning experience and one big curve each year, like getting better at photos and also better at talking to people and like more comfortable making those distinctions or saying like, no, I am worth this. So if you want me to do work for you, this is why I charge. Or, you know what, I'm going to give you a freebie because I want to. And like,
Right.
that is my decision because this is my skill, this is my art. And definitely, I think everyone could probably agree with here, like getting comfortable saying that to yourself and to others.
Right.
And Nans, I thought you had something to say.
Yeah. I think I have been blessed with a great group of close friends who like we operate on the basis of just respect for each other and each other's craft and each other's work. And so I know that I've never had a friend come up to me and be like, will you do this for free? But I don't think I've ever charged a friend full price for anything. For example, the photos I took for Ashley, she didn't pay me, but we do have an apartment together, and she was like, just don't pay me like your half of the utilities this month or something. Like, and then she like did my hair. So like it's an exchange, right? She has a craft and I have a craft, and we're gonna like negotiate that and exchange that on our terms, right? But I think that agency that Harrison was talking about, like, it's my choice. Like, if I'm gonna tell you what this package would be worth, right? And so you know, and don't go telling people I did this for free. Like, tell them this is what it costs, right? But then because I love you, because I have dragged you out when I needed to test a new like video technique, XYZ, like I'm gonna do this for free because I want to, right? But it's still an exchange, and it's still on the basis of respect. So I think that's the most important thing. Like, my work is valuable. I believe in, you know, obviously have your hobbies and have your passions, but if you're good at something, you really don't need to do it for free. And so I think that so long as the people around me respect that and understand that, we can operate like that, and we can negotiate.
Yeah, man. And so I'll go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, and you know, that's such a beautiful description, I think, of really just one of the most precious things in the world to any creative person, which is, you know, the group that's close to your heart that you can call at 10 at night and say, oh, I need to test this lens, or, you know, and you would kind of take a bullet for them and they take a bullet for you. And, you know, like that group is kind of really precious and worth protecting, and you know, it doesn't come around again. Like, it's a beautiful thing, that everything you just described. Yeah
Man. So if you guys are willing to, I have a couple more questions, like 2 more questions to kind of go through. But before I even get to those, I want all of y'all to drop your links in the chat to like your websites or your Instagram, so that the people on the chat know where to go if they need some photos. So like we saw that all the styles before at the beginning. If you guys need some photos, hit up Nani, Kayla, Harrison, or Conrad, or myself. But please drop your links in the chat, your Instagrams, anything that you might want people to know you by, so that, you know, even after this, you know, you have people that can reach out to you for your photos. But I'm gonna let y'all do that, and then I do have another question. This is the second to last question, but yeah, my second to last question to all of y'all, because all of you guys kind of touched on it, but it's about like knowing your worth and setting your price points, right? So I kind of, and without getting to specifics of everybody's prices, I do kind of want to get a feel for like how you know your worth, and like how you set your price points and things like that, and what you're thinking about when you're setting your price points, right? So like for me, one of the conversations I had about price was about like the taxes you got to put on. And so it was a conversation that I had with MJ my sophomore year. And she was like, you know what you should do? You should charge what you feel good about charging, and then add 20% for being Black, add 20% more for being a woman if you're a woman, and then add another 20% because you're gonna do some things that you're gonna give them more than you say you're gonna give them. And then for posterity, add another 20%. And that'll be your final price. And that way, the price you end up with is the price that that you feel good about. Like if she says, if you kind of don't feel poopy about the price you give, it's not high enough. Like if you don't feel a little bad about charging it, it's not high enough. And so those are words that I kind of stuck by. And she also told me that if charge you have to figure out the kind of photographer you want to be. Do you want to be the photographer that everybody can get for $10 and everybody gets and they get what they get, or do you want to be the type of photographer that people save up and they say, you know what, I'm going to put away money so I can get Corey's photos, or I'm going to put away money so I can get Nani's photos? And I chose which of the two I wanted to be. And so those are the kinds of things I think about when setting my price point, and I kind of wanted to get a feel for what y'all are thinking about as well.
I'll say that I'm just not afraid to ask people who have more experience than me, like, what do you think I should be charging? My work supervisor at Franklin Humanities Institute, his name is Eric, and he watched me grow as a videographer in particular. And so every few months I'd be like, what do you think I could charge for this? What do you think I could get for this? And I valued his opinion. I don't value everyone's opinion in terms of what I should be charging, so know the people to ask, but I knew that I really trusted the insight he would give me. And then there was something else I wanted to say. And then I also think about last summer I got a new lens that was really expensive, and I was like, oh, my price just went up because this lens was dummy expensive, and I need to kind of make up for that. So I think about the equipment I'm using, my skill set as I view it, and then as those in my circle view it. So
I will say that, Corey, I wish I had received MJ's advice my freshman year when I started charging people, because I definitely have undercut myself. I honestly think all 4 years, and I think it's come from what this entire talk is about is this weird sense of guilt for charging my peers. I simply I believe that if I had graduated this year and was coming back to Duke and charging people, I'd probably charge almost double what I'm charging right now. I just genuinely can't get myself to charge more. But I wish I had that advice, because I definitely would have charged more. Yeah, and that was the thing, is setting my price, it was just kind of random at the beginning, and then from there, when I saw how many people were reaching out, I was like, wow, I think I can charge a lot more than this. So I did start charging more. But even now, looking at other people's prices, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I not charging more? But that was the other thing, is I didn't see your guys' prices until I had taken, 10 shoots already. So then I was like, I don't think I can go back and now start charging more. I feel guilty doing that. But I think moving forward as a photographer, someone who wants to pursue photography professionally, I think I'm going to have to get over that sense of guilt, especially because, like Nani said, it's a craft and you have to know your worth. And I feel like my photography is valuable now, and that, I am offering a service. So I do need to charge what I think I'm worth. I think once I graduate college, overcoming that guilt will be a good thing for my bank account. And like you said, photography is such an expensive profession, hobby.
Bro.
I haven't touched my digital stuff in so long, but the amount of money every month I spend on film for my personal projects is ridiculous. And so and that's for a lot of it. And same thing, but digital photography is an investment. I invested in a camera and 2 lenses 4 years ago, and I haven't updated them since. But, a lot of this work goes into my passion projects and goes into funding my film.
Well, there's so much invisible work that you all put in front of a computer that no one sees. That's probably where you're spending more of your time than actually shooting, and I love Nani's advice of I'm quick to ask people, what do you think I can charge for this? Or, because it truly, there is no right answer. And the way photographers through the ages have figured out what to charge is to talk to each other and say, what do you think? This, maybe this. And Corey, it's hilarious to hear what it's just so funny to hear your advice years later, kind of refracted through someone else's experience, your experience. Because it is the case that I had a really good buddy, and she and I both were Well, so we're artists and we're female. So right there, we're going to be undercharging by at least 30%. So, okay, let's figure out a price that we think is fair. And now let's at least bump it 30% because of the lady thing and the art thing, you know, the whole, because as a creative, you're always like, oh, I just want to do it for people. It feels weird to charge, you know? And then the whole socialized female thing of like, oh, I want to make everybody happy and not make anybody uncomfortable and blah, 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 you know? And it's like, well, that does not help anything, you know? So anyway, so the only way, you know, the way we got through it was we both worked in a camera store, and all these kind of awful guys would come in, you know, and buy their film and this. There were several wonderful guys, but there were some real stinkers that came in too, and we were selling them their film, and we would hear, like, we'd see what kind of pictures they took because they'd come and bring it to us for processing. And then we'd hear what they were charging, and we would be like, oh my gosh, you know, because we knew we were so much better, but you know, we had to kind of get there you know, by like helping each other get there. So anyway, so like the least inventive person is out there charging twice what you're charging, right? Like there's no motivator quite like that, but it's still hard, you know, it's still hard. And it's still, I just love that you all have this community, and you're, you know, and like you kind of help each other and respect each other. And I'm just so pleased that you know, the future of photography is in good hands. Like, just exactly what you're doing tonight is the way to make sure that, you know, you keep the world safe for creative photographers everywhere.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that in the perfect world, I would have had this already. I would have had MJ has been an amazing mentor since I took her workshop last spring, so it's been about a year. And then like this community, like having photographer friends to talk about prices, to talk about techniques. I was jealous of Kayla's grad photos this year. I think they look glossy to me. I messaged you. I'm like, how did you edit this year? But so like what in a perfect world, I would have had like these people, my peers around me to like right from the get-go talk about it with, and then also a mentor. In reality, I started off being like, with the event photography where I started charging money, how can I undercut like the biggest figure on campus? I thought one of the biggest names, not an individual, a company on campus for event photography, overcharged and then underpaid the photographer. So I was like, hey, I can make more money than that. And then also charge like customers less. And then honestly, even like until I really started talking like with others, it was like, I just bought this new lens. How many events am I going to have to do to pay it off? How many do I want to do at what rate to like break even? So I wasn't just pouring money into this hobby when it's a really expensive hobby.
Yeah, it's such an expensive hobby, and I think Harrison, you probably know because we're on the same system. But I have G Masters, and so you know that stuff is so expensive. And I lucked into them with like some really crazy deals from this one guy out in the middle of Chicago when I was in Wisconsin, who was just like liquidating his assets, and I was like, I will show up the next day and purchase them off of you. But it was like such a huge investment at the time for me to just say like, yeah, I'm gonna pick up these like really, really heavy lenses off of you. I think a lot of people don't understand that. And I think that when it comes to pricing, like when I was taking grad photos last year, someone was like, so like how much is your gear actually worth? And I was like, right now I'm carrying around like $3,000 in my backpack right now.
That's real.
And that number has only grown. And it's like, you know, I'm underselling myself, like a lot of us are. But it's like I'm doing it because one, you like there's a mentality that's like, you know, especially this year when I posted my prices, my friends are like, wow, that's so great, but you're so expensive. I'm just like, do you like my photography? And they're like, absolutely, we love it. I'm like, then why wouldn't you pay for it? And they're like, because you do it already for us all the time. And it's like, well, no, I do it for Camp Kesem. That's slightly different. I won't get into that, but like all is to say, like, yeah, the amount of effort we pour into like Lightroom and just like the entire Adobe Creative Cloud, just like working in that suite, and just like, you know, on site, and the gear that you have, you know, if we're not talking just body and lenses, we're talking about like reflectors, lights, once you get into that area, filters, oh my gosh, so many filters, and just like liability, right? Like you can start getting into that, and when you start thinking logistically, like, man, those numbers add up real fast. And when I come up with someone, I'm like, yo, I'll charge you 300 for grad photos, and they're like, are you kidding me? I'm like, yes, I'm kidding you. I'm gonna charge you like 100. Haha, look at what I just did. But yeah, like charging, like I will say, like for, I'm sure like I've absorbed a lot of pricing from like the three of you, because you guys have done photos, like Corey, Harrison, and Kayla. I've seen you guys do photos. Like I started much later than everyone, I guess, in that sense. And so like when it came to pricing, it was never a matter of like, what am I worth? But it's like, what is everyone else worth? And I think I'm worth around the same. So I'm just gonna put that out there. So I think that was one thing we talked about earlier this year, was like, hey, let's like come together and like at least establish a baseline price. So
I
we're
wish we
not,
would have done that.
we're not underselling each other. And like we tried, but like, you know, with everything going on, it just like didn't happen, right? Because it's like, honestly speaking, we are all worth this much. And I hated when someone was like, you're charging like A, but like, you know, like this person is like $20 cheaper, and I'm just gonna take them. And it's like, right, but that person's not gonna stay the extra half hour that I often do. The person's not gonna scout the location like I do. That person's not gonna pour as much effort as I do into like working through all of your photos and like getting to know the people that I'm working with so that the photos turn out better, right? There's just like so many of these other things that go into play when it comes to charging. And so like, yeah, I think like that's like the biggest downfall was like, you know, like all of our pricing was like kind of skewed because like for college students, the first thing is like, I'm gonna get the, like, I'm not gonna get the like the cheapest, but it's kind of like the mentality. It's like, I'm not gonna buy the cheapest toilet paper. I'm gonna buy like the second cheapest toilet paper because that's slightly better. And I'm not using like 1-ply. So it's like 2-ply, right? So it's like, you know, it's like slightly like 1.5-ply, right? So I think that when it comes to pricing, like, yeah, especially in like a closed market, like in a closed group of like photographers who understand their worth, it's like, yeah, I should be charging this much for this, simply because like this is how much we're simply worth. And I think that that's something that we all like understand and agree upon, but it really is hard to convey that to a lot of our peers who are not photographers, who don't understand like why, like how, like, you know, how's it fair that you somehow make like this much off of a photo shoot that maybe lasts like an hour with like 7 of us? And it's like, well, think about all of the effort that I have to put into it as well. And it's like,
Well, and you know, Conrad too, like, you know, I mean, I love your toilet paper analogy, because like viewing it as a commodity is certainly one way, but I would encourage you all also to think of it, there's another way to think of it, which is essentially they're investing in having artwork created of them by you, right? And so that's a whole other sort of way to like, that's a whole other way to kind of think about it, because if people are balking at price, it essentially, they're not, you know, what they're doing is they're investing in your artistry, and they're essentially part of your art journey, right? They're part of your creative journey. And if they really are so fixated on price, then they just need to go to somebody else, you know. But if they want what you do, I mean, in a certain way, I'm not sure how useful it can be to try to explain to people why you're worth something. You know what I mean? Because they'll kind of never get it. They'll never understand that it's not. I mean, a buddy of mine actually says, like, when he goes to a really fancy restaurant and has an amazing meal, he says, you know, I don't go into the kitchen and say, wow, what pan did you cook that with? You know, like that's not what you say to a chef, right? You don't say, oh, what oven brand is that? Like but I think people don't, so I'm not sure that you'll ever really get people to understand what all goes into it. But I think it's almost more intriguing to kind of go, oh, well, you know, I understand if that's outside your budget, and, you know, maybe in the future if it's not and you want me to do it, I'm happy to. I mean, just literally just shut it down, in a nice way, but or I can refer you to some people. It's like, but if you want this, this is what this costs. And it's just a different anyway. But I think that people are, especially in US culture, everyone's so accustomed to things being a commodity and like, can you get it for cheaper? Can you get it off Amazon? And the thing about being a creative who, and designers deal with this all the time, like all kinds of creatives deal with this, is you kind of have to, as much as you can, step outside that commodity framework, because you're never going to win in the commodity framework. And you're also going to be depleted.
Yeah.
But, if people understand like, oh, wow, I love what you do, then you just kind of have to say, oh, it'd be great to work with you. I'll send you my PDF of my prices, right? And that's like the law of Moses. Like the PDF of your prices does not change. Like that's it. That's the book of life right there. But it's not you saying it, it's on a piece of paper, but there's like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it. It's on the piece of paper, Anyway, but I think that difference of commodity versus they're being part of your artistic journey, those are really different places, I guess is what I'm saying.
That was a great point, MJ, about asking a chef what kind of pot they use.
Right.
Sometimes someone has looked on my camera screen at a picture and then said, wow, what a great camera.
Right.
And I don't think you understand. I like find that slightly offensive.
Right, exactly. Oh yeah, that tells you all you need to know. They have no idea that's an offensive thing.
And also the photo that I take on the camera will look absolutely nothing like what I give to you. If I sent people the raw images from my camera, they'd be like, what in the hell is this?
Right.
Well, don't get to see my raws. Nope.
Like, I couldn't give you this. You couldn't do what I did with the same thing.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
aside from the point, but I have really one more thing for y'all. My last question isn't really a question. It's more of a just a saying. I want this. I wanted us to talk about this because I want this to be a space, because there are some younger photographers on this call as well, and I want this to be a space where we can kind of be in community with each other. Like, to your point, Kayla, like just having people to talk about with this stuff like makes it easier for us all. And so, because I want all of you to know you guys are worth what you charge and then some. And so, yeah, I want, and like any last words, I just want y'all to use, this is a space where I think we're starting an artist space, and I want us to be, whether you're a videographer, a photographer, a musician, an illustrator, I want people to get what they're worth. And I think too often people because what we do, we like doing what we do, people like to undercut us. So we can't undercut ourselves, and we can't undercut each other, right? And so when we go forward, I just want this to be a space where we're helping each other out, because one of the things I've realized over the past 4 years is we can all eat. Like, we can all be happy, and we can all make money, and everybody can be happy, right? And so, so if you guys have any last words about this talk or taking pictures or your experiences on campus, please feel free to just give us that, your last 2 cents. But yeah, I just want this to be a space where we can come together and just help each other out, and now and beyond Duke.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just here to say that on the surface, people definitely, actually, I won't even lie, people have asked me or directly compared me to the other people on this panel, especially for pricing, for what we put out. And it's the people who are on the outside of it think it's more of a competition than it really is. Than just being I enjoy everyone's work, and yes, we're fishing in the same pond, but there's plenty of fish, and I'm happier that there's other fishermen sitting next to me to talk to and to vent with than I am about the few fish they might take away. from
Oh,
me. I'm just saying it's.
I completely agree with that. The amount of times you're like, oh, isn't that your competition over there? I'm like, no. I am so grateful there are other photographers out here. I can't even imagine if there's like 2 people trying to do all the grad photos. It'd be a nightmare.
And then just being like open and willing to learn. Like, Corey, I'm so grateful that you have set up this space for the artist and like this artist community. I think it's really important and something that I wish I would have either had or maybe tapped into more during my 4 years at Duke, just because it can be like a lonely road. But yeah, I agree. Like, people will ask me, you know, can you do this video for me? And I'm like, no, but you know, I know Corey's done video before. Like, I know XYZ has done video before. And I think that's really important, just that like this community supports each other as much as, you know, we want our friends to support us and everything. And then I guess the last thing I would say is just like making sure that you are not only demanding that respect for yourself in terms of the value of your work, but also like helping other artists, you know what I mean? And making sure that, you know, you're getting that value across, not only as it relates to your work, but also as it relates to the artist next to you. I think that's really important.
All right, you got anything?
I mean, all I gotta say is just like keep doing what you're doing, especially for like, I mean, for us, like, you know, each of you has like a very special perspective and way of taking photos. We've said that time and time again, but it's so true. And like, yeah, encouraging you guys to keep doing that. And just like, I'm incredibly excited to see how everyone's journey and work will continue to grow just through the years and just as we all leave Duke as undergraduates especially, but also, you know, some of us will physically be like gone from here. But yeah, for like all the younger photographers who are here, just like keep doing what you're doing. Don't get discouraged, because I can tell you that I've been so discouraged every single time, like so many times in the past. And I'm sure that, you know, any one of us can say the exact same. It's like, oh, like I didn't want, like this shot that I was doing personally just like didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. But you really do learn from those mistakes. And, you know, maybe you went out and shot like straight into the sun, which like has now destroyed your camera. That probably won't happen. But, you know, you learn from those mistakes. And like this community is one that I think we've tried to foster throughout the years. But I'm really glad that, Corey, you've been able to just bring it together even in this one talk. And I'm just like so lucky to, you know, be on this, like, I guess, like panel to speak. That's like such a cool and absurd thing for me to imagine that, you know, I saw my name pop up in the flyer that you made, and it's like, oh, special guest appearances from, and I saw like the 4 of our faces, like, dude, you pulled this off my LinkedIn. That's so absurd. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, but like seriously, for all the younger kids, sorry, but for all of those who are like still on campus and you're still gonna be at Duke and just doing work, just like keep doing what you're doing. Don't ever give up. And also, like, yeah, like I think I can speak maybe for all of us, but like we're definitely also a resource. Like, I'm more than happy to talk about this whenever. I'm sure a lot of us can say the same. Just if you have any questions, and like, yeah, just like shoot them our way. And yeah, we'd love to chat and just love to see this continue to grow. And if you're on campus too, try to revive a photo club. We kind of tried that this year and it just died, and I kind of gave up on it. But you know, keep doing what you're doing.
That's real.
Yeah. Corey, thank you so much for putting this together. Yeah, I genuinely wish this could have happened at the beginning of this year or years past. It's really cool that you're setting this up. I genuinely really enjoyed being here and being able to, exactly. This was also a venting session, I feel like, in a way. Like things that you just like, your friends just don't get, you know what I mean? Like if they don't have the same craft as you, like it's just hard to relate to these kinds of things. So it was really great to have this conversation. So yeah, thank you for doing this. And yeah, any people who are just starting out with photography, like I love to talk about it with people. Yesterday, I just digitally walked my friend through film photography 101. But so yeah, no, if I'm sure any of us would be happy to explain anything to people or serve as a resource. And yeah, exactly. We're all learning from each other all the time. So thank you again, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
No, this is so much fun, and I'm so grateful to all of y'all for just being willing to hop on and talk. And like, like if I have it my way, this is not the last conversation we have in this format about photography. Like these talks happen every week, and I would love to sit down and talk some more about just the nitty gritty of all of it. And so I expect more emails, expect more text, and expect more special guest appearance. Like I definitely love having you guys on, and like we're gonna talk some more about this stuff because I think this community is something that a lot of artists on campus we just didn't have while we were there. And so if we can start something and create something that people kind of carry on, that would be so great to me.
Maybe the photo club could be called the Photo Pricing Club.
I'm not in charge of that anymore. I like passed it on. I like made sure the person who would have actually, fun fact, there's someone on exec who wanted to change it to that. But I axed that and I was like, absolutely not. So I don't know whose hands it is in now, but we'll see what happens to that org.
Oh man. Well, I don't really have anything else for y'all. I want to thank you all again. Yeah, I have so much love for everybody on this call. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're gonna be doing this again next week. I don't know what the topic is yet, but we're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna send out an email and I'll make sure you guys are on it as well. But I'm so grateful to all of you all. Like over the last couple of weeks, I've just had this immense sense of gratefulness, and yeah, I'm just so full. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, big ups. Thanks, man.
Thank you, MJ, for your mentorship throughout the call.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So I am so happy that the future is in your all's hands. You all are just so gracious and lovely and smart and just all the things, and it just makes me so happy. So anyway, yeah. And you're dealing with things creatives have dealt with since the first person painted on a cave wall. So onward.
Love you all. This will be on YouTube too, so I'm gonna upload the recording, and so people will get to watch this over and over again if they feel like it.
Wait, I'm gonna take a screenshot of the five of us. So everyone smile. All right, got it.
All right, big ups to you all. You guys are so great. Thank you again. I'm so grateful for all of y'all. Y'all are great, man.
Thanks, Corey. Bye, everybody.
Hey, Kayla, are you gonna be out there tomorrow?
I sure will be. Every day this week.
Boy. Still? Wow. Dang. Okay. That's
Yeah, I have some